Welcome back to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and now we've got past all the craziness of the motorbike section. We're now getting on with the main task at hand, but first of all, I'm gonna just check some things real quick.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that special lucky time, the wonderful part upon parts that is to come. We are in the 7th part of our Final Fantasy VII Remake run.
In the meantime, I'm actually playing for the hard mode right now. And yeah, like the first boss already in hard mode is hard as balls.
I'm just gonna say it, hard mode should have been called New Game Plus mode. I mean, it pretty much functions like a New Game Plus mode. You can only access it after you have done a complete playthrough here and there.
Well, I forgot. How was it? Was the equivalent called in the first Kirby game? Because I know there's a similar mechanic. After you finish the game, you could play basically what it was called like hard mode.
Yeah.
But it was like a hard mode of the actual game, the entire game.
Yeah, in the original Kirby's Dream Land, when you beat the game normally, you get a by the way, press this sequence of buttons at the title screen to unlock hard mode. And you do that, and the hard mode is basically what would a normal mode be by regular standards, because Kirby's Dream Land is very, again, remember, Sakurai created that series
to be accessible,
anyway, kids and casual gamers in general. So.
Anyway, now I've switched over to the brand new weapon, the Iron Blade.
So.
Also, fun fact, on New Game Plus, you can pause the game and skip the biking minigames, including the final one at the boss.
I did mention yesterday as a feature. If I had to guess, it's because, it's possible for speedrunners too, but it's also because from what I've seen in reports, it seems to much more, potentially unwinnable. So basically, they give you just the option to, skip through it in order to.
Well, Shiroi, is the thing. We need the trophy for completing all of this in hard mode, so it becomes useful. So you can just skip that part, so you can get there faster.
Anyway, so. Now we've got our brand new sword that we're going to be seeing for the next few parts, and finally a sword that won't break Cloud's back every time he walks.
Well, how about this, Shiroi? If it helps you, if you do skip it, it automatically counts as you failing the test under Jesse's eyes. So
all right.
If you skip it, you'll get punished for it.
We have never actually been before in the residential area, and it's standard suburbia.
Well, I mean, it was like that in the OG.
Yeah, again, and the developers even mentioned this in the behind-the-scenes videos that Square has been releasing. They really went out of their way to really show the suburban side of Midgar, because in the original game, we mostly stayed focused on the places that our main cast is in. But in here, we really get a lot more insight into how it is life on Midgar, civilian life on Midgar, I mean.
So.
Guys, wait, stop.
It is stuff like
without me. Why don't you?
Oh.
Again, this is the primary big thing that this remake does a lot better than the original ever could. World building.
Yeah, I'll say it. It does even better than Final Fantasy 15.
Well, 15 was nothing so much about.
It was a road trip game.
Recruitment.
They got a mascot.
Spot the dog. We will know more about it later too.
I was just gonna say they got a mascot dog character.
Still leaves the lights on every night for the girl who only comes home once every other blue moon. Mom's an old-fashioned type like that.
So Jessie's that kind of girl.
You know what? You know what's the interesting thing, Dwibs?
She's quite the girl.
Right now on my hard mode playthrough, I'm right in this exact spot. Like where you are right now. I'm not even kidding.
So, wow, what's the hard mode here? Try and get to Mum's house without stepping on a landmine or something.
Basically, audience, as I'm commenting on this, I'm multitasking and getting through hard mode. So basically, right now, me and Dwibs are in perfect sync.
So,
now
has been invited by Jessie to do something out of his comfort zone.
To you, I was going to explain it.
Well, the game itself is doing it.
Well, anyway, behind the backs of Biggs and Wedge and us, I guess, Jessie and Cloud hatched a secret plan to steal her pizza. I mean, to distract.
The dog.
Yeah. Use these three cats to distract the parents or her mom long enough to take an employee card that they'll need to use to get inside the main objective later
did
on.
that cat just winked at Cloud?
Oh, so even that cat is thirsty for Cloud? Jesus Christ.
He gets really alone. Must be the Mako.
Everyone wants a piece of me.
Cloud, I know, Cloud, I'm not sure how desperate. Cloud, I know how desperate you are for pussy, but that's not the right kind.
Hey. Who said I was
excuse me,
I'm sorry. Who said I was the desperate one?
Cloud is too socially awkward to be thirsty. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna have to find a job on this one, Dwibs. When has Cloud ever come across like that anyway? Like, the girls are the ones flirting with him. What is he supposed
And the
to
boys, don't forget the
Raj.
boys.
Well,
Pedro.
don't you see, guys, behind that stoic shell of his, it's just a nice person, just desperate to get out.
But yeah, at this point, I was actually a bit caught off guard. Cloud is being tasked to commit thievery, something that I don't remember. Well, okay, he did that occasionally, maybe in the original, but this seems very out of his usual stick. Not that he's not capable of doing it, but
hey, not to worry, guys. I'm sure we'll be taking it off just some random prick and that.
Oh.
It boils down to, yeah, exactly.
What's that, Cloud? You look like you've seen yourself.
Yeah, basically that's Jessie's dad, who's been stuck in that bed for a while.
We're gonna explain later what happened.
Yeah, I know I should do it myself, but...
Now, fortunately, for obvious reasons, you won't be waking the dad up if you make any noise. But I'd rather still get on with trying to find stuff after I had a little look around and see
there's
what
something
Jessie was
on the
like.
ground.
Well, what do we have here?
Day 1. I began my first day on the job, and the boss threw pie in my face.
Hold on, it's actually slightly important.
Sorry for not getting in touch sooner, but... I'm working at the Gold Saucer as an actress now.
Oh boy, she's lying.
I had a lot of help from people.
Actually, no, Jova.
But I managed to land a starring
At this
role.
particular point in time, no.
And
She is
closed
now,
out 2
but
tickets
yeah.
to my
It's
flight.
an old letter.
Looking forward to seeing you both
I'm just voicing what
Notice-
Cloud's probably thinking when reading that.
Yeah, now
Also-
Jessie has a last name, which didn't
Raspberry.
she
Also,
actually
notice
didn't
my-
have in the original.
Yeah. Also back then, notice my directing.
Because you're British.
Yeah, we Brits like to do our spinning around the character shot.
But yeah, Jessie
Oh.
was working as the princess in the theater play at the Gold
It's interesting
Saucer.
It's interesting you say that, Dwibs, because there's a big emotional moment in the late anime where they do imply that technique as well. So even the direction is faithful to British culture. Then
Okay,
Anyway.
not quite that. All right, so we're trying to look for the ID card, but it's not in the bookshelf. It's not in this random pile of letters. I highly doubt.
Excuse me, I'm trying to find an ID card. Can you please point me to it?
No way is it in his pocket.
It's
thank
actually,
you very much,
is
sir.
just in the pocket
Yeah.
of the suit.
He was a maintenance.
No, it is
Thankfully, you don't have to pickpocket his comatose body.
it boils down to the Cloud, and at this point in the story, the Cloud is still in that area too, where he's not really thinking of right and wrong. As long as they pay him in either money or materia, he'll do it.
Oh no, I know. I'm just actually surprised that this game decided to tackle this kind of thing.
It's another good way of showing that Avalanche can do quite a bit of morally questionable acts.
Now repeat yourself,
I am
Cloud.
terribly
You're
sorry,
the hero.
sir. Yeah,
Which
I'm the hero. I know what I'm doing is for the greater good.
The greater good.
Which makes them more fleshed out and believable characters.
I mean, honestly, this world isn't exactly one that is a safe ground for, clean
Yeah.
morals.
Oh no! I mean, if you're not,
So-
if you're not in danger for the reactor, you probably trip over like
Although-
a pipe
noticed
or
this-
something.
And the Mako itself is the reason why monsters are mutated. Again, this is one of the games that actually bothers to explain why the monsters are dangerous, mutated in such large quantities, and need to be killed.
Again,
Anyway, mission.
Okay.
Oh, pizza!
moments like
Eat
this
the
also...
pizza or wedge. Sorry, go on, Joe.
Moments like this really do help hampering the danger, though, because, normally whenever we were in Final Fantasy VII, or heck, a lot of Final Fantasy games, normally you're always in, this high fantasy setting, which, will give you a certain level of disconnect here, but by showing a lot more of a realistic setting like this suburban area, now you feel a lot more linked to it. Thus, the danger feels a bit more real when stuff feels closer to home. Like, literally, all of this area is at stake here, considering what's going to happen later.
Wedge.
Wedge. That's
Focus,
Wedge.
Well, you guys aren't eating it.
Get it? He's
Maybe
back.
she's using a weaker blasting agent this time.
I'm actually surprised they
Looks
kept
like
that.
to get in touch with my supplier, our only
that
option
part
is
of,
to loot a
yeah.
warehouse owned by Shinra. Hey there.
Oh, hi.
You know.
Oh yeah, sure. Take the card right out in front of her house.
Now
You
comes the
know,
hard part.
I wonder if
Well,
anyone...
everybody's sleeping at this point,
I'm
Dwibs,
gonna
so...
use this to
Yeah,
sneak
it's the
in
perfect
what
time
is
to
it?
strike. Especially because the mission is dangerous. Jessie actually needs to steal explosives from a Shinra compound. And as we've seen previously during the day, Johnny almost got killed because of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You think I'd let you off that
You know, I gotta wonder if anyone sees us and thinks that we're just tie-in cosplayers in this neighborhood.
Can you even imagine how cons work at Midgar?
Again, that's one thing I love about this remake. Like, I feel like it does even better than Final Fantasy 15, which, yeah, the idea of Final Fantasy 15 was to have the real world put into a fantasy world. But with here, you have an already mystical setting with a very realistic area that does show how big of the danger can be.
Once again, Jova, it
plus
takes
the,
huge inspiration from stuff like Ghost in the Shell, which is all the aesthetic that 80s anime usually had. Bring these punk structure with tall buildings constantly shrouded in dark neons and heavy lights everywhere, but be creative enough to put in elements that are out of the ordinary in order to not, creating
Plus,
a complete replicate and just, become boring as a result.
Plus, unlike 15, this game runs at a stable frame rate because they choose.
Well, once again, it's different engine.
Well, I wasn't quite done yet.
Carry on, Dwibs.
I was going to say, I mean, at least this game chooses a well-worn but reliable engine as opposed to them making their own, because as we've seen, in unless it's Final Fantasy 14, and by that I mean the relaunched one, them using stuff off their own engines tends to not turn out very well.
Actually, I don't remember if the relaunch starting from Earlyborn kept using the Crystal Tooled engine.
I think it was a very downscaled version.
Oh, wait.
Would explain the uncanny valley effect here and there.
Hold on, wait. Her dad collapsed. Wait.
Yes. By the way, yes, Shiro Wedge seems to be lacking cats.
Wait. Hold on. So you're telling me Jesse's dad collapsed from overwork? What? You mean he was working for EA?
Well, as you have seen, he was a worker near the reactors. So we're basically giving a parallel to radiation poisoning, which is essentially what micropoisoning is.
Well,
it was a combination of that and overwork, though, which does show how Shinra aren't exactly the most morally high company.
Well, Joe, but Shinra is the EA of this world anyway, so...
Pretty much.
Anyway, it also works like this. Hold on, this is important.
Basically, Biggs tells you essentially what Barra did, just in a more honest way.
Yes.
It's funny, when you get down to it, Mako is kind of like a perverted live stream.
That's basically it.
Yeah, that's basically it, actually. But it's condensed live stream. In fact, we'll actually learn this later in part 2. If I remember correctly, Theo, isn't it Sephiroth that explains it to...
Yes, during the flashback, we actually stumble into natural material condensing place, and I think it's Stephen explanation. And Cloud
All right. Now coming up is quite
something's wrong.
Anyway, as I was saying, coming up now is going to be quite the lengthy battle. So the game's going to give you a couple of opportunities beforehand to rest up or have a little practice. Unfortunately, I can't quite do the practice because no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't get into this room they were talking about.
Huh?
He's talking about the practice room too.
No, but I don't get it. Like, you didn't manage to get into that?
No, I couldn't find a door anywhere.
It's literally on the stairs to the right.
I couldn't see it.
Yeah, even Wedge told you to go there.
Right there, there's on the sign. You could even see a big sign there.
I couldn't see. I was focusing on the task at hand.
Somebody made an oopsie.
Handle this solo.
But yeah, no. Well, here's the thing, Job. I think it's a bit more different, like, because like Theo just said, the world of Final Fantasy VII is more like modern steampunk anime type of stuff, whereas the fantasy based on reality idea that Nomura had for 15 was literally more like way more realistic than even, because when you take a look at the world of 7, it's still clearly a very fantastical world in nature, just not in a traditional sense. Whereas when you go into the world of 15, like the roads, they look like real life roads.
Anyway, anyway, I want to mention real quick while we're still here.
Go on, Dwibs.
Like I've shown before, you can go to these little potion bits and get basic necessities like
Sometimes
potions.
you get discounts, yeah.
It's the equivalent of the things being on sale, basically.
And you can also get some of these little trinkets, like the iron bangle. You can get.
Yeah, like the one that you saw before.
They're kind of more than just trinkets, you know. Those are freaking equipables, man.
I'm trying. Well, it's the best way I can explain it.
Just call
Yeah.
them equipables.
I mean, that's a trinket. Look at that thing there.
It's an equipable. Why not just call it an equipable?
Because it's got more syllables in it.
Do British people hate syllables,
And I
Shiroi?
get tongue-tied very easily.
We're pretty lazy, and also that.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah,
Anyway,
like
I thought it was here through that door there, but no, I couldn't get through.
I noticed that you're using the little cursor thing. Personally, I prefer using the mini map, which you can turn on with the L2 button. There you go. This training center. That billboard was literally pointing you to it. Anyway.
Well, I'm already powerful enough, so I should think I'm okay with this.
No. When you get right down to it, the training center is kind of a waste of your time anyway. They don't really, those parts don't really give you that much XP anyway.
One last time.
Yeah, like
plan time.
You start things off by cutting loose where everyone can see you.
And us?
Alright.
We're the
Basically, this is the equivalent of if Cloud just ran up into the middle and yelled, "Hey,
Leroy
come
Jenkins,
here, I'm a
yeah.
distraction."
Cloud.
First
Okay,
flashback.
Cloud and yeah, this is the moment where Cloud remembers the promise. To Tifa.
interesting time to remember.
Yeah.
All right,
that's
let me bust up
I get
voice actors.
I get the point of these flashbacks, but at the same time, they're very weirdly placed. I'm about to do a very important mission, but bam, here.
If you don't remember, the original Cloud has these like flashback when he's talking to Tifa as soon as he gets to the 7 heaven. Here it's to sort of basically set up the fact that his change of character that he's having in regards to how he handles with Tifa and later on with Barrett. Essentially, this memory triggers into him be a nicer person. That's basically it. Anyway, young Cloud is voiced by Major Dodson. I don't know what he did, then I'll check later on. And young Tifa by Capri Oliver.
Boy, I gotta say, puberty hit these kids before puberty normally hits because their voices were
How old
already
are they
deepening.
supposed to be here?
Cloud
16,
actually, I'm checking here.
15.
Cloud age 14, Tifa age 7. Oh, sorry, age 13. Sorry. And no.
13.
Sorry. No, I'm mistaken because instead the Capri Oliver voiced a young Arif. Young Tifa is voiced by Glory Kurda. Sorry.
So Cloud's supposed to be 14 and Tifa's supposed to be 13.
Like 1 year. Oh,
Yeah,
wait. Seriously, Major Dodson? Is that? He's the
sounds
kid
familiar.
in Walking Dead, Drova.
Ah, yes, he is.
What a bizarre casting choice.
I like
As
he
for-
still has the spiky hair and just a really long ponytail off.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's
people
adorable.
Like that kid.
He got rid of the
Cloud,
ponytail,
Step
though.
out of it. Cloud, step out of it. We got a mission to do.
Boy, that
As
was...
for Glory Kurda, she was in a TV. Major contribution was a TV series called Crown Lake.
Think big if we're going to make a difference.
Again, another TV actress.
Not like this.
Did he ever finish that drink?
Okay,
No.
okay. Again, you know, I want to. Again, I get the point, but I just want to do the mission, please.
Again, it's
Can't
a.
having a moment with.
Yeah, it's important. It's also for later.
I can see what Dwibs means, though. It's like, well, there were a lot of better places to have put that moment. But I guess maybe the flashback, the later flashback with Tifa.
You have also
makes a
to,
bit
you
more
also to
sense.
remember. You also to remember, thanks to hindsight, this is still the portion where Cloud is literally putting his memories scrambled back in places while overlapping with the ones of Zack.
I mean, imagine if imagine if in the original game you were going to do the final boss against Sephiroth, but instead, but before that, you get a flashback of your time in the Golden Saucer or something.
Not really a fair comparison there. Like, you're presenting a much more extreme case in terms of dissonance.
Well, sometimes extreme cases can help get your point across.
I disagree,
Same.
especially for this one.
They will not always get your point across. The idea is to look for an equivalent case, not an extreme
Also,
case.
it's also
Alright,
it
here's
also
a-
it
alright,
was
here's
also to
a-
not make it
okay.
too stale.
Okay, then here's a better one then. If you're about to face Sephiroth and then all of a sudden you have to sit through like every single time you talk to Sephiroth beforehand.
What does that
literally
even
every
mean?
No, what I mean is every time you're about to say you're about to face him in the final boss, but right before the battle starts, you have to put up with watching flashbacks of all the other times you've interacted with him.
Well,
Considering
okay.
your memory lives with you is actually a blessing.
Okay. To be fair, Dwibs, if it's relevant to the fight, then by all means flashback away. I think what you're looking for is an example of a flashback that doesn't really match up or really make any coherent sense with the current scene going on.
By the way, another tip that I can also give, by the way, for anyone who might have yet still to play or is right now playing it, for hard mode when you get to stuff, and especially you too. See this. Auto life is in this game too. It's just not called auto life. It's one of the weapon skills called reprieve, and basically if you die, it will just grant you an extra opportunity with full health again, but only once, of course. So basically, as soon as you see reprieve in one of your weapon crystariums, get that.
So okay. Remind me. Do weapon crystariums carry over to different weapons, or do you have to start
No,
again when you start
okay,
a
here's
new
how it
weapon?
works, Jova. The perks acquired with the Crystarium on which weapon stay with that weapon alone. It's the abilities that you master that are tied to the character, regardless of what weapon he or she
Alright,
decides to build.
so anyway,
Oh,
the
shit.
point of the point of this part is that you have to do your best to fight against any security officers that come along, while Biggs goes off to try and disable the turrets or rocket launchers that are firing at you.
Essentially horde mode.
Sorry, go ahead.
Gotta love how the turrets can apparently hurt them occasionally too if they get in the way. It's like
What's just sorry. What you think?
It's like friendly fire or not. Okay, go on.
Those are Biggs or Wedge firing at them. That's also why they're doing
where
that
did-
damage.
Where did the other enemy go? I thought I had one left.
Actually, there is another one that Biggs will take care of.
Anyway,
No, I
you're
meant guard enemies. You know, I swear I had one left, but then it cut to Biggs getting rid of the gun and he just vanished.
weird.
So that's what Taylor was saying, Jova. Don't worry, you don't have to go around equipping each weapon individually and just grind for SP, because every time you get SP, it counts for all weapons.
Yeah, so
Wonderful. So as soon as you get a new weapon, you can pretty much just
the
fill
only
up that
thing
crystarium
you
where
have to
were
carry the
previously.
weapon forcefully is until you master the weapon itself. But the game itself gives you the tip in order to master it as quickly as possible, like perform
great.
this action.
More of
Yeah.
these attack dogs.
Basically, Jova, it's the weapon, it's the ability tied to the weapon mechanic from Final Fantasy IX.
So pretty much, unlike Kingdom Hearts, you always
Don't
want
worry,
to just
guys.
upgrade to the next weapon you
Wedge
get
has-
if you want the best.
Wedge
design.
has the most. Not to worry, guys. Wedge has the most awesome weapon ever. A dog
A whistle.
A dog whistle.
Oh
But
boy.
Ooh.
Yeah, also the JoJo's tactic of running away.
he's going to be rather sore in the morning.
Well, it was helpful.
They actually went through the dog bite someone ass gag.
But yeah, like I was saying, unlike Kingdom Hearts, you pretty much, okay, if you want like the best attack, you pretty much just move up to a new weapon when you get one.
Or the one that you like aesthetically. In Dwibs'
Also,
case.
why would a dog be carrying Jill?
Dwibs, that's a trope old as the first RPG ever, which in turn is carried from D&D. The most common excuse that the creators of D&D got is that sometimes monsters, like rabbit monsters, eat what their prey, also had, and then sometimes includes sex or money, which they carry just in their stomachs. But
That's weird.
In other RPGs, it just becomes a thing taken for granted in order to balance things out. Well, if you want something more attuned to the Shiroi, Final Fantasy VIII has got you covered, because in Final Fantasy VIII, the key word is hating fun things, because instead you're a mercenary, therefore you're getting paid regularly for your job. How much you get paid and how regularly you do, it's depending on how you perform well to an exam, which later you can raise or actually lower thanks to questionnaires.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
Can these mechs just leave me alone?
Well,
No,
there's
you are
set
trespassing.
notation.
You are correct, Shiroi, but at the same time, all you need to do is go to the internet, search for all the answers, get through all those quizzes, and as a result, you'll get max grade, meaning, Shiroi, the game will shower you with money just by walking around.
Hey, keep in mind, Shiroi,
Guys, I should explain this fight as well. Okay, two sweepers you got to deal with. Now, what you can do, if you wish, is to lead the sweepers to the mine so they'll blow up. But I'm Cloud Strife, damn it. I don't need no mines. I can just use the summon material. I can just use the summon and deal with them that way.
Aren't you just equipped with the Chocobo Chic materia?
No, he
Well,
has the Ifrit.
Oh, alright, let's see if any Ifrit in action then.
Come on out, Ifrit.
Pokeball. So yeah. Summons can fight alongside you, and while they do have a will of their own, you can go to the commands menu and have them perform a certain attack on any enemy.
Not too different from summons in Kingdom Hearts or Eidolons in Final Fantasy XIII.
And just like in the original game, Square Enix finally remembers that the Ifrit is supposed to look like a demon and not a fucking dog.
I know, right? Although I prefer him with his more red skin.
I'm going to try and, what I like to do when I'm doing one of these summons is use them to take out the enemy that's got the most health, so I can focus on these guys.
There's also the other thing, the summon has several sets of abilities, but the trade-off in order to use them properly is that you need to use the one that the character is using.
Okay, it blew up off screen.
On the mine, actually.
I don't think it touched the mine, it just blew it
there
up.
There were two on the ground, yeah.
Oh great, this arsehole
now
again.
it's... yeah.
Oh
you think we were just done with the flirting?
Did he ride through the streets calling for me?
Yeah, Roach is definitely a man on a mission.
Dude, no means no.
He hasn't said anything to him
Listen,
yet.
I told you, I'm not interested right now.
Cloud hasn't said anything. He doesn't say anything.
Okay. To be fair, Shiroi...
Just because he doesn't say anything doesn't mean he doesn't consent.
Okay. To be fair, Shiroi, Cloud slashing his motorbike probably should have sent something of a message to him.
Also, I gotta say, Roach is a very polite enemy. He'll refill your health, and the basic excuse given is
he wants
like
a
Cloud that much.
It's similar to how Rubicante in Final Fantasy IV does the same thing because he believes in proper, showmanship in combat.
Well, Tail, it's a better excuse than the final boss of Blue Dragon, at least.
Yeah. Okay, one thing. I will say one thing. These kinds of bosses, just against the fellow, just on his own without any mechs or anything. These are ones I do struggle with because one key is to try and dodge his special attacks. Unfortunately, these enemies are very, very fast. So even if I do dodge them, they'll just come right back at me anyway, and I can't dodge immediately afterwards.
That's the thing. It's a matter of knowing when to dodge and when to guard. Sometimes guarding is the better solution rather than trying to dodge outright. Again, like I said, do not play this like you're playing Kingdom Hearts.
Well, I never played Kingdom
Well,
Hearts.
this isn't meant to be.
Well, wait. Objection, Dwibs. You've actually mentioned that you've played at least an hour of the first Kingdom
Well,
Hearts
not
game.
not properly. What's like an hour in the grand scheme
Yeah,
of
there
things?
isn't really a lot in terms of the first hour, to be fair.
Yeah, but usually by that point, you know, you get the gist of it.
Sir, I'm over here.
He's admiring the broadness of his sword, of course.
Sure. Anyway, I'll just burn you again.
But yeah, there's also, if you may noticed, after each new phases of a boss, the stagger gauge usually gets reset, meaning that you also need to strategize in how you want to stagger the enemy.
That's right, folks. The stagger gauge is back, and it's better than ever. This time, unlike Final Fantasy XIII, the bosses have special animations so when you stagger them and everything.
Well, they did also for 13 Java. It's just, it simply put, it's not, hold on, it's not a chore anymore to do it. That's the basic difference.
I guess you could say some enemies have special animations for getting staggered, but nothing really comes to mind because mostly it was just them standing still more than anything.
Well, yeah, though they do get exhausted. That's the keyword for the stagger gauge.
Exactly, but I'm talking about the fact that, you know, they didn't always show visual sign of it. More like, you know, you were just told they were staggered.
All right.
Yep, Roach has now been defeated.
Have you cooled off yet?
Is that enough of a no for you?
Do I have to slash you while writing down NO with my sword slashes?
Like, just burn it into the ground.
Looks like it's just my motorcycle again tonight.
I don't want to know what you're doing in your motorcycle, mate. Oh, great. More mechs.
It sounded like it was the end for our heroes, when suddenly the CGI animator had an heart attack.
We're not so lucky.
Well, aside from Roche's behavior, we're also about to get slightly more confusing if you haven't played the rest of the compilation, which is...
Roche
nobody
takes care
but
of the
I.
baddies for us.
Nobody
like I said,
but
Roche is more of a wild gun. I'm
Allow
surprised that Shinra didn't render it an outlaw. Sorry,
guards, he's disobeying your orders. Why not just shoot him?
He's a high-ranking soldier. They ain't gonna shoot that. Yes.
But he disobeyed orders.
Yeah, it stopped Shinra from before, Jova, to be honest.
Honestly, considering...
If all these guys did that, how would Shinra stay in power?
Dwibs. You need to know how Soldier tends to operate. They kind of respect fear and power more than anything. Somebody has
and this guy is clearly not somebody you want to, you know, mess with lightly.
Like, let me put it like this. For as much a wildcard as Roche is, do you really think they want him actually actively against them, rather than just passively against them?
Well, judging from that past bit, what's the difference anymore?
The difference is that here, he's only doing it for a crowd. If they fired on him, he would probably turn on them for reals. And considering how certain other ex-soldier members, like Genesis and Sephiroth, have factored in, they probably don't want to risk that. That's right,
Not the wedge. Not the wedge.
Not to worry.
But yeah, you wanna be more confused because it's time to have more Before Crisis representation.
I didn't know this was a reference to that.
Well, Biggs, either Biggs or Wedge are gonna explain in a second, actually. But yeah, these actually, again, I'm baffled of that because once again, aside from minor fan translation, thanks to that PC conversion for the ROM that got released recently, not many people actually managed to know the story of Before Crisis. I was actually convinced that Square was gonna release like an actual current mobile game equivalent as a companion app to actually, you know, have players actually catch up, especially because Before Crisis kind of suits it well to the mobile, to the current mobile market. But no, they're just. This is actually one case where we actually have to, you think, to take face value.
We've been on the outs ever since our
Fair enough.
Or play the fan translation.
I've said it before and I'll say it again, folks. If you want to enjoy this remake the best, it's best that you know your Final Fantasy VII lore. In especially the original game, pretty much knowing how that went before Crisis.
Doesn't that kind of defeat the point of this being available for
I'm
new
more
people?
baffled by the fact because before Crisis, in some particular areas, contradicts the rest of the compilation, particularly also Crisis Core.
It's pretty clear that this remake is basically decanonizing the.
Actually, the contrary,
Not
Joe, sorry, the contrary, Pedro. It's pretty much integrating them, and I'm actually very confused for now.
Well, maybe only the parts that people like or something.
That's
Well, I mean, the fact that they're
convenient,
canonizing it, but again, here's sort of the thing. It's like, well, your enjoyment of this game is definitely best enjoyed if you know stuff about, well, if you pretty much know what happens in the original Final Fantasy VII, and if you know about stuff like Before Crisis. Granted, Before Crisis, that's a bit more additional stuff, but I will agree with you, it is weird that they're canonizing it.
I don't mind the fact of Crazy Score and Dirge of Cerberus being referenced because those actually managed to have a time for release, got extensive coverage, and are known both for Japan and in the West. But Before Crisis is not really as lucky as those two titles.
Yeah, I gotta say, and the more this goes on, the more harder of a time I'm going to believe that Shinra's going to be able to cover all this up. And how are they going to cover up gunfire and rockets?
Hey, well,
what's it called? Training session?
yeah, they'll just call it a training session.
Yeah, a training session with live rounds.
You'd be surprised, some training sessions have that.
It was only a training session, it was like a bloody deathmatch.
Well, here's the idea, Dwibs. You know stuff like shooting practice? Those often use live rounds.
Anyway,
Especially with the max involved.
Wedge, be thankful they didn't aim near the front of that particular
Yes,
area.
Dwibs. Now can you remove the sack that has been lifted on your head?
Really? Let me see.
Are we seriously doing this here? That's
Oh.
You guys are the
Poor Wedge.
your ass is fine.
Your ass is fine, Jessie Raspberry 2020.
This is like a bruise or a mild burn at worst.
Oh, whoa.
Slap on that flex tape on that ass.
Now that was a gunshot.
Oh my god, Cloud smiled again.
I spy?
Sorry, I
fuck.
didn't smile. Fuck you.
I need to keep up my stoic demeanor.
It's not safe here.
Look, Cloud, it's not like we're not gonna believe you anymore if you smile once in a while. Come on.
Yeah, let's get going. I didn't smile.
No, what you saw was just my mouth pulling up that way. It's a
very deliberate spasm, and I don't want to talk about it. Okay?
yeah. I have those every 2 days.
It runs in my family. It's a very tragic condition.
I don't
Also,
want to talk
Cloud,
about
you're not Spider-Man. You can move more discreetly like that. There you go.
Can't believe HQ is running an op tonight.
Nothing to see here. Moving on. Just a regular soldier. Moving on.
Don't mind us, just a guy carrying a giant sword along with his buddies.
Especially the fat guy with a grenade launcher.
Or the girl with arm gauntlets. Or the guy with the gun.
Yeah, and a literal breastplate. I'll show it. Sorry. When I actually was playing, I actually stopped for a second to see the soldier was questioning the old woman, and yeah, she's basically a riot. She wanted to stay outside just to sweep the front of her house, while the girl wanted desperately to let her go inside.
Yeah.
Is she one of those old ladies who refuse to bow to modern youngins?
Oh, come on, please. There were boxes. You didn't do anything.
Oi,
He's too knackered at this point.
boy, Dwibs, you're a terrible director. You can't even keep your character acting consistent.
Isn't that right?
Well, guys, Cloud
That's the
has just been...
Skipwood way.
Well, guys, if you let me explain, Cloud has just been through a very hard-fought bloody battle.
But I
And
thought
yeah,
you hated boxes and needed to murder all of them.
Also,
He's too fatigued.
Somewhere around here.
Excuse me.
Bingo. half figured my dad got it wrong, but nope. They're here just like he said.
Parachutes?
Parachutes.
What do you mean half figured?
50-50 is pretty good odds if you ask me.
So yeah.
Cloud's face says it all.
Are you just gonna leave the motorcycles where you parked them?
You know,
That's terrible.
it was a perfectly good motorcycle, Jesse.
We can only hope Rosh is gonna take care of them.
Also, not even that,
In
the
his
joke. It's
own
leaving evidence
special way.
behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be cleaning them out all day long.
Especially the one where Cloud sits.
Oh yeah. He'll be cleaning that one naked.
Oh god.
It is now.
Jesus.
It is now in your heads.
Wait,
Thanks, I hate it.
one more thing.
It's Jesse, not right now.
Yeah, that the first thing is...
I'm sorry. Are you trying to kiss me before we jump?
Now is not the time to flirt.
Swing by my place after.
It's always the
so I
time
can
to
pay
flirt.
you.
Oh
Jesse, you could
my.
have told us that before.
Together we can show the world what we can do. I don't
You are
know.
next to me and I'm next to you.
Give me a minute.
Except that's the opposite of what Cloud wants.
I love that bit. Give me a minute. No.
I ain't your
Bro,
bro.
it's your bro.
Yeah,
That's a bro moment.
Sure would suck if the parachutes didn't work.
Sorry, Wedge. 15 is the Final Fantasy for bro.
Dude,
Or the
bro.
romance, yes.
Oh, bromances.
Well, not with bro, Shira. That's more Gears of War.
Well,
Bro-
I think
Bro's in
Gladiolus think fits the bill for that
Ah,
one.
looks beautiful, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, okay.
Could have done more.
But yeah, this also, Wedge has his sort of character arc about his insecurities. We'll see later on a payoff to that.
Aw,
He's
it's
doing
nice
his
seeing.
best.
It's nice seeing Cloud give him a pep
he
talk.
may be bumbling, but he has a heart of gold.
The
So.
catalyst was him being bitten on the ear.
You
But
know,
he is actually being helpful, though.
no, I gotta admit, for as dull as life can be, the city sure just looked beautiful up high from here. Also, Jesse, never do that again, please.
What reenact with that Titanic scene?
She's an actress by profession. She's used to do that kind of thing.
Just saying, better hope nobody
Like
recognizes
Biggs
her.
mentioned, she would have continued her job as an actress if it wasn't for what Shinra did. So
Again, I really do like how much variety they've added to Midgar as a city. Like, you know, not only do we see a lot of the classic settings that we expect, but it's nice to see a more suburban take.
I'll head home
Again,
on
this
my
is
own.
exact.
After all,
Oh.
I'm only a little sore.
You were bitten
Mate.
by a dog.
Just sit on an
And
ice
shot
cube
in the
or
butt. Sure. He was bitten by an attack dog. He was shot in the butt, and apparently he may have gotten lasered there too. That ass has seen some action.
Also, Wedge, when you get back home, just sit on an ice pack or something. You'll be
This is
fine.
what Kataze was talking about, Joe. But the reason they decided to go with the multi-game structure is because they wanted to do all of this awesome world building. Because it was just begging to be done.
Well, I mean, you know, if they're gonna have the game be separated in parts, definitely do their best to warrant them being in separate parts. I'll admit, I had my doubts too, but from what I've seen, slightly played, and heard, this game actually could stand on its own as its own game.
like we mentioned, the goal in mind was to make each of the parts being the equivalent in terms of content and hours to play, like a Final Fantasy 13 type of game.
Well, me and Joe were actually talking about this the other day. But basically, I think the best way to put this is that think of this remake project as a long Final Fantasy VII anime, and this game is the Midgar arc.
Think of this like being season 1.
It's an animal.
You could technically end it here and feel like it is its own full venture, seeing as how it has all the different levels and structures to it.
All right then.
Anyway, we'll get to doing some more stuff in the next part when Wedge fixes his ass.
See you then.
See ya.